Well, we all knew this day was coming, so here it is. Today I've got a good one for you. What I'll be doing is predicting all the regular season awards, as well as give you my playoff predictions up until the Stanley Cup Finals. All bias set aside, I'll use data I've received to try and accurately predict each given circumstance. After all this is over with, you can laugh at how hysterically wrong I was. Hell, I've been loaded up on my liquor cabinet from the pain I'm about to witness come April, so, let's begin. Anaheim. Injuries and misery following by getting finessed in the trade deadline equals the 8th seed in the West, followed by a first round playoff exit in no more than 6 games. To make matters worse, this was supposed to be the year where Anaheim finally made a deep playoff run for a Stanley Cup. Oh dear. Time to regroup the whiteboards and show what and draw up your rebuilding process. Arizona. It is no surprise that you guys have had the season you've had this year. To make matters worse, there's no loyalty in Arizona as you're struggling to get even half of your stadium filled up, even though it's relatively small. You've even got tickets as cheap as $23. No playoffs for you. Hell, if I was Arizona, I'd relocate to Kansas City and move to the Central Division along with the Predators, Blues, Blackhawks, and Stars. This team needs to relocate. I'm not even kidding. Boston. I don't know what to think about this playoff series with Boston. They've currently got 86 points and are in a trench struggle with both Tampa Bay and Toronto to get the Atlantic Division this year. The trades they've made during the deadline cleared up cap space and showed a healthy future, but at the same time, I'd be expecting Boston to have their eyes on winning the Stanley Cup, not clearing up cap space in exchange for aging gems. What's really pissing me off is how they're relying too much on a 40-year-old Zdeno Chara to lead the defense because Torrey Krug is an offensive defenseman. If Tuukka Rask and Anton Khudobin can be the rock during the playoffs and are more efficient than Vasilevsky and Anderson between the pipes, then yeah, Boston can take the Atlantic Division this year and may even get the 1 seed in the East. But I'm putting a gigantic asterisk on this because it requires a lot of things to go right in order for that to happen. I see Boston making it to at least the second round before getting eliminated to the Lightning due to either lost potential, bad luck, or sloppy turnovers. Buffalo? No playoffs. Calgary. Calgary, here's a basket case. If Anaheim doesn't get the 8th seed, then I think Calgary will get it in their place. The problem I have with the Flames is that they don't have that impact player that can make the difference in any given game. With Anaheim, it's Ryan Getzlaf. With Boston, it's Brad Marchand. With Chicago, it's Patrick Kane. With Montreal, it's Carey Price. With New Jersey, it's Tanner Hall. But with Calgary, well, really nobody stands up in that roster. And for that, I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year. I just don't know how to feel about this hockey team. Carolina. The team is a goddamn brass bonanza. For some reason, these guys have been progressively improving on their game and aren't last in a surprisingly stacked Metro Division. At this rate, Florida could fall off the map and we could see the Hurricanes make a playoff appearance for the first time in 10 years. What crazy world are we living in? Chicago. What the fuck happened to you guys? I had you guys winning the Stanley Cup over the Washington Capitals back in November. Lord, have the times changed. No playoffs for you. Colorado. To go from worst team in the league to possible playoff contender in one season is quite impressive. I'll give credit where it's due and give you the benefit of the doubt and say you make the playoffs. Even then, there's no way in hell you're going to win a playoff series, but, come back next year with a healthy roster and experience, and who knows what happens. Columbus. To think you guys were first in the Metro Division at one point. No playoffs for you. Dallas. In such a tightly knit playoff battle in the Western Theater, you've got the Dallas Stars fighting tooth and nail with the Wild, Blues, Flames, Ducks, Avalanche, and Knights for a playoff spot. When the smoke clears, I'm sorry, but I don't see the Stars making the playoffs this year. The West is just too competitive. Detroit. As long as the Metro Division remains stacked and you're behind Florida, there's no way in hell the Wings are making the playoffs this year. Come back with young prospects instead of aging veterans and maybe you'll be relevant again. Edmonton. What the fuck are you guys doing? I had you guys making the second round in November. Now the only player you have that's worth a lick is Connor McDavid, and he can't perform at his fullest for all 82 games for you. For Christ's sake, he's not Wayne Gretzky. Florida. Surprisingly enough, you guys are in a good spot to make the playoffs this year. Granted, it'll be the 8th seed and you'll likely get swept by the Caps or Lightning, but it's an honorable and achievement nonetheless. To go from firing your head coach during a long trip via taxi to possible playoff contender is worth my respect. Congratulations, Florida. Los Angeles. No surprise, but I've got the Kings making the 5 seed when all is said and done. You've had a quietly impressive year, and you guys could even make the second round if you guys are poised enough to surprise anyone. Have a patch of approval. You sure as hell surprised me. Minnesota. I am loving this team right now. They've got everything they need for a deep playoff run. Solid goaltending? Check. We have Dubnyk. Efficient power play and penalty kill? You bet. What about stamina? Oh, you better believe it. They've got plenty of overtime on their belt. With exception to the Sharks and Predators, I've seen this team as my favorite coming out of the West. I may be overly optimistic here, but anything can happen when you've got a red-hot team like this. Montreal. I have 2 things to say about this squad. 1, why the hell is Bergevin still the general manager of this team? And 2, what the fuck are you doing? When I saw what the Canadiens were doing in the offseason, I was openly laughing at the incompetence at Bergevin and his deal-making. Don't get me wrong, Carey Price is one of the best goalies in the entire league, but an 8-year, $86 million contract that runs up until he's 40, all in which is guaranteed, and he's injury-prone? You're in cap hell till 2025. You've earned this. Own it. Nashville. What else can I say about this team that hasn't already been said? You guys are set for another Stanley Cup run, and it's damn impressive. 91 points, damn efficient goaltending from Pekka Rinne, superb defense and enforcement from PK Subban. You guys are the Toronto Leafs with a good defense. As much as I hate to say it, you guys are probably going to win the Stanley Cup this year. You've earned it. Congrats. New Jersey. I honestly don't know what to think about this squad. They're obviously talented enough to make the playoffs and are even holding their own in a highly talented Metro division, but there's just something about this team that makes me doubt their potential. I don't know what it is, but I think these guys are cruising for a first-round exit. I'll happily admit I was wrong if I end up being wrong, but until I see this squad can exceed expectations, I don't see them going anywhere. Maybe I'm just paranoid and we'll see these guys battle the Caps in round 2. I don't know. Islanders. This team is utter garbage pretending to be a hockey team. No playoffs for you. Do I need to add anything else? New York Rangers. I knew I was right about this team. I was telling people back in November that this team won't make the playoffs. They called me crazy. Throughout the entire season, the only good thing that's happened to this team is Henrik Lundqvist. Everything else went to shit, like I predicted. Then, oh god, the trade deadline. You sent away everything that was valuable outside of old King Henrik for pennies on the dollar. I mean, who the hell decides to acquire Matt Bolesky in exchange for Rick Nash? What the hell were you guys thinking? Oh, that's right, you weren't thinking. God damn. Ottawa. I am in utter shock as to how fast a team can go to shit. You guys were 1 goal away from the Stanley Cup last year, and now you're competing with the Buffalo Sabres for the top draft pick. No playoffs for you. Philly. This team is about as inconsistent as they come. Despite this, they're fighting tooth and nail for a top spot in the Metro Division along with the Penguins and Capitals. Instead, this team, obviously this team is going to make the playoffs, but which Flyer squad are we going to watch? The Flyer squad that went 13 consecutive games with a point, or the Flyer squad that lost 7 straight games? I'll give these guys the benefit of the doubt and say that they get the 3 seed this year, but that being said, it won't be surprise me if they get upset. Pittsburgh. The 2-time defending champs are kind of struggling this year. That being said, they're still going to make at least the 4th seed in the bracket, but losing so much depth is indubitably going to hurt them when they're on the stretch. I don't think this squad is good enough to win another Stanley Cup this year. I'm sorry, but I just don't see it happening. San Jose. If there's anyone who's most fit to win the Stanley Cup this year, it's the Sharks. They're unimaginably skilled and can go the distance with you on any given night. If it weren't for Vegas and Nashville and Winnipeg being on fire this year, I'd have the Sharks winning the Stanley Cup. Unfortunately, it looks like the journey ends at the conference finals for San Jose. St. Louis. This is a shocking twist of events. Out of all the teams in the West who are pushing for a playoff spot, the Blues chose the absolute worst time of the season to collapse. At this rate, the Blues could miss the playoffs outright. But, the Blues being the Blues, I'm sure they'll get their shit together, but they're still going to have a low seed and they're going to have a lot of ground to make up. Tampa Bay. These motherfuckers are the thorn in my side that keeps me up at night, especially Vasilevsky between the pipes. If my nightmares come true, my Bruins will get knocked out by the Lightning in the second round, which is becoming ever more possible as we speak. I'm afraid of this team, and so should everyone else be. These guys are Stanley Cup contenders, and that's a damn fact. Toronto. Speaking of thorns in my side, let's look at the Toronto Maple Leafs again. Ever since I roasted them back in November, they've been hellbent on trying to make a fool of myself. That being said, I can only hope and pray that my Bruins don't meet up with them in the playoffs. Otherwise, shit could get ugly quickly. Vancouver. Nothing about this team has surprised me. They're garbage and they're not going anywhere for a good 5 years. Join the party with Montreal. No playoffs for you. Vegas. Out of all the surprises that we've been dealt this season, the biggest of them all has to be Vegas' inaugural year. First in the Pacific and no signs of slowing down. That being said, I don't expect Vegas to have a legendary playoff run. They're just too inexperienced and young to be doing shit like that, and it wouldn't surprise me if they got knocked out in the first round. Washington. At this rate, it looks like there's going to be another round where the Pens and Caps face off against each other, and I'm going to stick to tradition and have the Pens win that series. If you have a problem with that, feel free to contact me at 1-800-GO-FUCK-YOURSELF. Winnipeg. To be honest, I've been sleeping on this team a little too much. I'll give credit where it's due, but until I see a playoff series victory with this squad, I'm not raising any eyebrows. President's Trophy. I can see either the Predators or Lightning taking home the President's Trophy this year. They're the only teams with 90-plus points, and they're both red hot. Hart Memorial Trophy. Alexander Ovechkin or Patrice Bergeron. Vezina Trophy. Pekka Rinne or Andrei Vasilevsky. James Norris Trophy. P.K. Subban or Brett Burns. Art Ross, Nikita Kucherov. Frank J. Self will go to Alexander Ovechkin. I don't have any clue who will win the Lady Byng Trophy. The Jack Adams Award will probably go to Gerard Gallant. The Maurice Richards Trophy will go to Alex Ovechkin. The King Clancy Award will probably go to P.K. Subban or Tuukka Rask. The Ted Lindsay Award will probably go to Patrice Bergeron or P.K. Subban. The William N. Jennings Award will go to Tuukka Rask. Marc Moussier, no clue. GM of the Year will probably go to George McPhee. He's the GM of the Vegas Golden Knights. And the Bill Masterson and NHL Foundation Awards, no clue. As for the playoffs, here's what it looks like. In the West, we've got the Predators, Sharks, Jets, Knights, Kings, Wild, Blues, and Ducks in that order. And in the East, you've got the Lightning, Capitals, Bruins, Penguins, Flyers, Maple Leafs, Devils, and Panthers in that order. In round 2, I have the Predators versus the Wild and the Sharks versus the Kings in the West, and in the East I have the Lightning versus the Bruins and the Capitals versus the Penguins. Now, in the conference finals on the Western frontier, I have the Predators and Sharks, with the Predators winning in 6 games, meaning that the Clarence and Campbell winners will be the Nashville Predators. In the Eastern Conference, I have the Lightning versus Penguins in the Eastern Conference Championship, and the Prince of Wales Trophy will go to the Lightning in 5 games. Now, as for the Stanley Cup, I have the Lightning and Predators, and I think this game will go the distance. I think it'll go to 7 games, and I have the Predators winning in overtime. And I think the MVP of the playoffs will be Pekka Rinne. He's just too good right now. Get it? Get it? Huh? Yeah, you all get it.